Broadcasting from the Central Business District of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa says security has sent a strong message to all armed groups in the country. The Nigerian Police Force makes breakthrough in its ongoing crackdown on crime in Lagos State. Bauchi State Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps apprehends. So let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we bring you the news in detail.
For deeper analysis on security situation in Nigeria and beyond, watch Third Eye Africa TV.
Welcome back. Once again, my name is Bivan Magoni with the news in detail. The Nigeria Chief of Defense Staff, CDS, General Christopher Musa says security forces have sent a strong message to all armed groups in the country that the era of impunity is over. Particularly, the defense chief said that the ongoing offensive against terrorists and bandits in Zamfara State and the wider northwest of the country has shown no signal of a shift in the government's approach to tackling banditry. He stated this at the weekend during the closing ceremony of the CDS Joint Task Force Commanders Conference in Abuja, a desperate scramble for escape. He also said the elimination of two of his top commanders, Kachala Gwamade and Kachala Shehu, has sent shivers down the spine of Turji. However, he said with the current operations gaining momentum, the tide appears to be turning as troops drip and air assaults continue precision strikes. Similarly, a total of 27 terrorists were killed and 62 others arrested, while 44 hostages have been rescued by troops on internal operations across the country within the last 1 week. The defense headquarters disclosed this at the weekend, stating that 23 suspected oil thieves were also apprehended with stolen products worth over 292 million naira recovered during the period. Director Defense Media Operations Major General Marcos Kanye said the operations were carried out by troops between January 30 and February 7, 2025. He said troops also recovered 61 weapons and over 1,500 ammunition, including 26 AK-47 rifles, 4 locally fabricated guns, 9 10 guns, 8 pump action guns, and 346 rounds of 7.62 millimeter special ammo. In the Niger Delta region, General Marcos added that troops discovered and destroyed 220 crude oil cooking ovens, 23 dugout pits, 2 boats, 17 storage tanks, and 24 illegal refining sites. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Army has warned those impersonating the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, on social media to stop or face the consequences. The warning is contained in a statement by the Director, Army Public Relations, Major General Onyema Nwachiku in Abuja. Nwachiku said the Army has been inundated with complaints of an increasing number of impostors claiming to be Chief of Army Staff on various social media platforms. He said the impostors had continued to perpetrate the mischief using the official portrait of the Army Chief on their various social media platforms. Talking about strengthening security, the Nigeria Police Force says it has made breakthrough in its ongoing crackdown on crime, arresting multiple suspects involved in murder, armed robbery, and illegal possession of firearms in Lagos State. In a statement released on Sunday, the first public relations officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, disclosed that officers carried out several successful operations between February 5 and 7, leading to key arrests and the recovery of weapons. As part of its commitment to strengthening national security and curbing crime across the nation, he said the Nigeria Police Force continues to implement proactive strategies to address criminal activities effectively. According to him, one of the major arrests took place on February 7 when police operatives from the Satellite Division in Lagos intercepted a suspect at Abulado along the Lagos-Badagry Expressway. He said officers during routine patrols stopped the suspect, Wisdom Obi, who was riding an unregistered motorcycle, and found a Brownie pistol and 13 rounds of live ammunition hidden inside an MP3 radio. The police warned citizens to be cautious, particularly in traffic, as criminals often pose as street traders before striking. The Bauchi State Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, says it has apprehended 28 illegal miners. This is contained in a statement released by the Command Public Relations Officer, Saminu Yusuf. According to the statement, the suspected illegal miners were arrested following reports received by the command about an ongoing illegal mining around Waya Dam and environs under the management of Upper Benue River Basin Authority, which is affecting the dam project. The statement said upon receiving the report, the personnel swung into action under the directive of the state commandant Oloyede Oyerinde and arrested the suspect and with their tools. According to the statement, during preliminary investigations, the suspect confessed to have committed the crime and will be prosecuted accordingly. Let's go on a break. And when we return, we continue with our conversation right here on Third Eye Television.
For deeper analysis on security situation in Nigeria and beyond, watch Third Eye Africa TV.
Once again, thank you for staying with us on Third Eye Television. It's time for us to unveil our guest here. But hey, Joy, it's been a while we've been together. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
How have you been?
Very well.
You look stunning. Good to have you. This morning, we'll be having an interesting conversation with a human rights activist and the founder of the Revolution Now movement. And this man has been going around doing a lot of work. Should I say he is appreciated or underappreciated in Nigeria? Because whether you like it or not, he has been doing a lot of work that a lot of people are supposed to be doing. This morning on our way to work, and I stumbled upon him, and I was like, no, I must have him to the studio. And that's to let you know how humble he's been. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Thank you very much for bringing me to your show today.
And thank you for always having our back and the kind of humility should I say, you exhibit. Because I met you just doing your thing, and I said, can you follow us to the studio? I remember one of the questions I asked you is, are you not scared of walking around, without security, looking at what you've been doing? You're fighting the government, you're fighting insecurity, or should I say security? Which one are you fighting?
Well, it's important for people to understand that you cannot enjoy private or personal security in a country that is insecure. And one of the things I've never tried to do is to seek security where there's none, and which is with the same people who have compromised our security. Yes, I could be walking around with a bunch of policemen who are, at the slightest provocation could have beaten you up because you wanted me to come to the studio, but that's not me. I think about other Nigerians, 200 million of us who don't have access to that kind of, egregious security. And most importantly, how do you want the same people who hate me so bad for standing up for what is right to secure me at the same time? That's, a contradiction. So that's why I don't bother too much about security. I've said it several times. I don't even watch my back because I don't want to know. I don't let people translate dreams to me because I have enough nightmares myself. I don't want people to give me prophecy that they've seen that, they think you'll die. Of course, everybody's going to die, whether it's prophesied or not. So, but my own important message to Nigerians is that we all deserve security in our country. And it's not just gun-carrying security, but social security, economic security, political freedom, and most importantly, national security that's not driven by the security of those in power, but the security of all. That is the kind of security I'm interested in. Once you have that, you don't have to worry about policemen protecting people. They will be protecting everybody.
I like your mindset, but that is quite risky, if I must say.
Well, anybody who is doing what I do, or I've done for 33 years, must understand that if you're not ready for the risk, don't just do it. Yes. So if you're not ready to get shot at, people try to assassinate you, people grabbing you on the street and detaining you for no reason, just like they did to me about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be doing what I do.
Okay, let's talk about, before we get to the point where you were arrested and detained 2 weeks ago, we are going to get the fact of that story. We saw it this morning about the Nnamdi Kanu's case,
Yes.
and it has been adjourned till when again?
Uh,
What's the situation like this morning?
well, from what I learned from his lawyers, it was a John Sindai, which is, I think, a Latin word for until further notice. So that's what they told us, and it was because he came to court and told them, frankly, that they have no right. The judge, who already recused herself, cannot then recall herself to the case and start giving consequential orders, which makes very basic legal sense.
Okay, let's go back to your own case now, where you were arraigned 2 weeks ago. Can you give us update on the whole story and how were you able to get your bail and you are out on the street again?
Well, I did not get arrested technically. They were looking for me, and I made it clear on social media that I was available in Abuja. So they sent me an invitation letter to come to, I think it's the Force Intelligence Department, FID they call it. Sometimes I mistake them for Federal Investigation Department, but that's what I learned from them later. And when I walked in there, they presented me with an array of allegations that I had filmed some policemen who were extorting people in Lagos, and that was a violation of their own police rules. They didn't tell me that that wasn't what they were after, but I knew what they were after. They were, of course, after me for stating clearly that the Inspector General of Police was staying illegally in office after he ought to have retired September of 2024. So when we got to court, those were the charges they read to me, of which the Lagos allegation was just one out of the 16 counts that was leveled against me in court. So I was granted bail the second day, and I couldn't have met the bail condition on that day. So the judge graciously, in his own wisdom, allowed me to go with my lawyers to fulfill the bail conditions. And they have now been perfected, but they seized my passport. That's why I came to court today, primarily to get my passport back from them. They're always targeting my international passport, which they did for 5 years under Buhari's regime. But since we are a continuation of that lawlessness, here we go again.
Well, as someone who has been following the security situation in Nigeria, I would like to get your opinion on the current state of affairs and what's your assessment on the current security situation in Nigeria, and what do you think are the most pressing threats to national security?
Well, you see, Nigeria's security situation has degenerated so much that you sometimes don't even know where to start. But I have a theory, and it's not conspiracy theory. I think that those who are running Nigeria are comfortable with less territory, because then they have less demand on their time and their intellect to govern an entire territory. So to the extent that if you're in Borno State, the governor of Borno State can be seen to be doing very well, because he no longer governs 27 local governments, just governing a city called Maiduguri. The rest of it is under, quasi-military takeover and by terrorists. So the same thing is happening in Yobe. Likely a lot of swat of land in Yobe is taking over southern Kaduna. So you have a potpourri mix up of, cocktail of different armed groups, non-state actors. You have terrorists, you have bandits, you have kidnappers in some places, and then in the southeast there's a combination of those who are fighting for their homeland, Biafra, and the military, duking it out on a daily basis. So we are completely lost the security control in the country. When I say, I don't mean myself, but the Nigerian state. So, but in the middle of that, you discover that this couldn't have happened if they hadn't ignored the most important security, which is economic security. Because when you have people able to find jobs, go to school, have some minimum level of protection, basic needs, you're not engaged in crime. And if you address political issues the same way they should be addressed, because if you look at most of the banditry, terrorism that you have seen, even the militancy in the Niger Delta, they all come from one period that a politician wanted to win election and looked for some extra help to win election. And when the elections are won, then they abandon those who have assisted them, and those ones take the arms and start their own struggle and label it whatever they want. That's what happened with Rivers State. That's how the militancy started with Asari Dokubo and the rest of them. where Odili was the one who went and hired them. What happened in Borno State started with the Borno State government then, whomever the leader was who wanted to win election, got all these Shekau guys, gave them motorbikes. Even then, provided a commissionership for one of the terrorists in his government to be in charge of Islamic affairs. If you go to southern Kaduna, where you had some very crazy banditry happen, the former governor of the state confessed that they had to settle some terrorists, with state cash so that they will leave Kaduna alone. But we later found out from Baraji that they actually imported terrorists to help them win the election in 2015 and I think subsequently in 2019. And when those ones were done, they just couldn't settle them or they didn't give them enough and they didn't leave. They just took to crime. If you go to the southeast, that one is basically people who are fighting for self-determination, which has been badly handled. That's why we had the Nnamdi Kanu situation that we were talking about earlier today.
So we're talking insecurity here. Under the Tinubu administration and that of Muhammadu Buhari for 8 years. Now, you and I got to meet each other because I needed your help in helping to amplify some certain insecurity issues in the country. Now, under this administration, do you think they are doing way better than the Buhari administration? And how far do you think they can do in terms of, we're talking about insecurity, not economic insecurity?
So you can't address the physical security issues without addressing the economy. It has to be holistic. Anybody that is deceiving you that you can grant amnesty to militants without finding them food, jobs, which was how the Niger Delta was stylishly resolved. It was that they started providing militants with education.
Yes.
In fact, an average ex-militant in Niger Delta is getting paid more money than a civil servant in Nigeria. Some of them take home about 130,000 naira a month. They provided them education, scholarship. They started building universities. There's a maritime university, Niger Delta University. They created the Niger Delta Ministry before they turned it into one of their loot sacks. So, but you have to take these things holistically. But to come back to your question about where we are in terms of insecurity, I don't think anything has changed. I think things have gotten worse. I think Buhari inherited terrorists, and now he has added bandits. I mean, he added bandits before he left. And Tinubu inherited terrorists and bandits. He has added another one called Lakurawa. You understand? I don't even know whether to put those ones between terrorism and banditry. And there's a return of some kind of militancy in the Niger Delta region. There is the escalation of the southeast in terms of the Biafran agitation, which the agitators themselves have denied is their handiwork, that there are fifth columnists in the game, which are political in nature, which all of us know.
Well, in your own view, what are the root causes of insecurity and how can they be addressed?
Number one is economic hardship. It's you see, the way this country has been mismanaged over the years have left a lot of outliers. See, the children that we abandoned, who we didn't send to school, are going to be tomorrow's terrorists. Yes, there's no question about it. I listened to one of Shekau's video when he was still starting out. In one of his biggest, anger or angst against the system was that they were abandoned when they were younger, and their neighbors were doing well, but they had no food. So he started having anger issues against the system, and then they took them to an Islamic school, the Mandaras, and he became a teacher there. He started transforming his anger into public education for like-minded person. So when the opportunity showed itself, he didn't waste time to waste whatever he could of the country that abandoned him when he was younger. So that's very important as a context to look at this. The rest is going to be easier to solve if you resolve the economic hardship, economic issues related to, finding people food, jobs. Those things we used to tell ourselves when we were in secondary school. I think it was the Maslow hierarchy of needs, which has to do with food, shelter, clothing, and I think healthcare. I don't know all of them. I don't remember all of them now, but I've added internet access to it. So the moment you have those things, because why I said internet access is that if the internet didn't exist, more people would have been terrorists in this country. All those
Yes.
POS owners that are able to transact business and make some money, probably you will have them to deal with. So then you then move to corruption in the security sector. People are making money off of fighting security.
Conflict tenures.
Yes, they just don't want the insecurity to end because that's how they make their billions. And we've seen a lot of those people become billionaires in this country. People who were supposed to start and stop minor security issues, connive in some cases. When I was arrested and detained, I found out in the police that a bunch of soldiers had been arrested, including maybe like a very senior army officer who had been selling arms to terrorists and bandits in Zamfara and Kaduna and Katsina State. So, but they don't want to let the public know about this because it would expose the underbelly of what is going on. So that's one small part of corruption. And I had not mentioned to you the fact that the economic infrastructure or national infrastructure like electricity is under threat in Niger State. It's a matter of time before these terrorists or bandits in Niger State get to Shiroro Dam, or one of the dams that's powering Nigeria, the electrical grids. And if they take it down, it will be worse than you have imagined everywhere because the little electricity that's available, which is barely adequate, will be seriously affected.
So we're going to look at the conversation. A couple of weeks ago, we saw the Chief of Defense Staff in a conversation with one of the foreign media organizations where he stated that insecurity is being sponsored by, by foreign bodies and organizations. And now we've seen the West African part of it, where ECOWAS at a point in time, we have Mali, Niger, Chad, exiting and all of this. And in some conversations, we found out that some of these guys who are causing serious insecurity in Nigeria are foreign mercenaries. What is your take on the whole involvement of foreign bodies in this conversation? Because from the conversation he had, it seems like Nigeria is just a victim of foreign powers at play here.
Interference. Well, you see, this is why I think Nigeria needs brand new leaders. Because when you have leaders whose only solution to any problem is to throw more problem at the solutions, you get nowhere. There is no country in the world where foreigners don't want to interfere in your politics. Even in the US, they have Saudi Arabia will send people down there. Russia wants to send people down there to interfere with their politics. But when the security agencies or leaders are doing their real work in terms of gathering intelligence, protecting your borders, and really doing training and fighting, you will not be complaining about unseen foreign powers. Those are lazy arguments as far as these issues are concerned. If you know the foreign elements that are involved, why don't you name them? Why don't you let the public know them? But most importantly, what are you doing as the chief of a defense staff or army staff to stop what is stoppable? What's happening to discipline? What is happening to remuneration of your, whatever happening to motivation of fighting soldiers? Are you treating them properly? Are you giving them what they need? What's happening to procurement? Those of you who they ask to go and buy armor tank and you go and buy some fake armor tanks and you give it to people to go and die. What are you doing to solve these problems? Because you are here for internal security, and complaining that somebody wants to breach the security is unnecessary. It's just like somebody builds a house, builds a fence, all right, and then has mega, and then he puts barbed wire on it, and then he's complaining that a goat is trying to climb his fence. Of course, a goat will try to climb your fence if there's any of your plants sticking out and they can eat it. So, but you have already constructed a fence, right? And you are protecting, and sometimes you put a barbed wire, you can even electrify the barbed wire. So you do that first, and then protect yourself. But if you don't build a fence, or you decide to open a section of the fence, knowingly, or in an attempt to sabotage or for corruption reasons, and you are complaining that there are people who are breaching your security. They're not serious. That's the way I look at it. I listened to part of that interview and I was just like, He was sounding like a social media influencer as opposed to a serious security guy.
Now let's move over to Kaduna State. The former administration said we cannot negotiate with bandits, terrorists, and now the new administration is saying let's make a peace deal with them. What's your view on that?
The former administration in Kaduna State negotiated with terrorists. They were the first to start paying terrorists handsome
So it wasn't
rewards.
even a negotiation.
Yeah,
You were paying them.
yes, they
so
were paying, and they
yeah,
have said this publicly. I think they're just playing politics in Kaduna, and I feel bad for the people of Kaduna because they're just using them as pawns in their political games. The former administration is not different from the current one. It's just their last name or first names that are different. And if any one of you is fooled by this their charade of fighting, I pity you because they will soon make up, and they'll leave all of you in the lodge. So everybody is continuing the charade. They continue, and they started in Kaduna. And when the charade has not been open to the public, they start using distraction. So if you know terrorists to the point that you can make peace with them, what also stops you from making war
With them.
with them?
okay,
Because that's what ultimately will stop the problem. Encouraging and giving terrorists entitlements they don't deserve without paying for the crimes that they've committed would only breed more terrorists.
quite interesting conversation here.
Yeah.
But I would like to look at it from the Revolution Now movement.
Yes.
How far has it come? Is it still on? Because at a point in time, Revolution Now was, the name after the NSAS and all of that, the movement which you have kept consistent, but of late it has not really been, strong out there in the social media. What is next coming from Revolution Now?
Well, maybe you should understand the context of the revolutionary movement, how it came about. It actually started in 2019, and it was Revolution Now movement that led people's eyes to open that you can actually fight the Buhari regime, which encouraged a lot of young people to participate in NSAS, which we started here in Abuja. We started NSAS by going to the police headquarters after we heard of the Ugeli police attack, and there was mass, condemnation from the internet, the Twitter. So Revolution Now wasn't after NSAS; it was a precursor to NSAS, and after that we continued. The Revolutionary movement, interestingly, actually organized the End Bad Governance protest that happened last year. So we're the same people. It has gotten even bigger. And now nobody is confused about the fact that we need a revolution anyway. So we don't need to be
So how
saying
do you
it
intend to
anymore.
achieve a bigger movement or reaction or support from the Revolution Now? Because from all of it, you need more pull. You need more pull.
Absolutely. This is the reason why we keep educating and then, getting people mobilized. Sometimes people don't understand that most of the countries that had a revolution did not start one day. You keep planning, you keep mobilizing, you keep educating people, and one day, one thing will spark. It will spark it to happen. The French Revolution, I will talk about a lot, took 10 years before the masses got up one day, discovered they have no bread to eat, and that was how the revolution started. So just keep an eye on the horizon. It is building up because as long as there's injustice and oppression on the scale that we are having now, and more eyes are opening, we are closer to the revolution that we have been preaching.
Okay, just before we go, I would like to have your take. If you were to be the president of Nigeria, which of course you've had the ambition, so what are you going to do different from what these guys are doing? And how do you intend to do that? Have you given up on the ambition of being the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
No, I said it since 2018 that the revolution that I'm calling for, whether be by the ballot, or the street. If I'm president, it's going to be a revolution because there will be very solid changes in every sphere of life in the country. There will be better life for people, greater security. I'll provide electricity without looking back. I will fight corruption like my life depends on it. I will reorganize our security architecture. I will bring in education. I will bring in healthcare. There will be food security in the country because we're talking about security. Nobody even mentioned food yet. And part of the reason why the insecurity in the country is killing it, is getting worse, is that it's affecting the source of food for the country. Plateau, Benue, Kaduna, Taraba, these are some of the most fertile lands on earth. And so it is not, producing the kind of food it should because of this insecurity. So that happens, fantastic. If it doesn't, it will happen by other means necessary. That's what Malcolm X told us.
Okay, let's finally have last words from Mr. Moyele Shore. For those who are just joining us now, we've been having a conversation around security in the country and, of course, beyond. With should I call him a media personality because he owns Sahara Reporters, and he's an activist, the convener of Revolution Now. But just before we go, sir, last words from you. Is there anything else you want us to know or you want to say to people viewing right now?
My last word is this: is Revolution Now.